I have to admit, when I first went outside, I was quite cold and maybe a little bit grumpy about having to go outside. But I sat for a while and sort of turned around my feelings and then started to become interested in the nighttime world around me because I don't normally sit in my yard at nighttime. I sort of started to think about the things that were living in the yard and looking at some of the buds of the flowers as we, come to the end of winter and begin spring. I know we're still midwinter, but it will be happening, and my jasmine is saying it will be happening soon and sooner rather than later. Um, and while I was doing that, I was sort of interrupted because I could hear this sound come through, which my brain automatically understands to be a plane in the sky. And so I looked up and my camera followed the little dot as it moved through the sky. I was sort of intrigued by how big that plane was so far away and how little I was. But, in what I was recording, it was just this tiny little dot making this huge sound in the sort of quiet neighborhood. Not long after that, I turned around and I discovered that my dahlia plant was being marauded by snails. And they looked like there could have been, I don't know, 50 snails on the plant, just completely munching it up, which is fine because it's finished its business for the year. But I was sort of intrigued by how the little snails there's so many there and there's so much life going on. But they were making no noise at all. They were sort of completely silent as they took down this plant. And I started to think about, what sound does a snail make, and as it eats the plant, does it create a sound? And I was really thinking about being big and being small, being alive, the kind of impact we make on the world in our little lives. And I was kind of, I don't know, maybe feeling a bit philosophical. So, yeah. But yeah, then a little later, I sort of was trying to think of that more from a child's perspective. And I realized I was doing very imaginative thinking about, little creatures outside and the life outside. But I didn't really want to take away from that philosophical perspective as well. So I wanted to think about, my game or my play that I was creating. I wanted to make that as true to that philosophical feeling that I was having when I first captured that moment. And so, yeah, I think as I'm kind of now moving on to my creative response, I'm hoping that that's what I sort of get. But we shall see. Thank you.